Welcome to By Seat and By Saddle, seeing North America by car and by motorcycle. After our retirement in 2011, my wife Sue and I made a number of road trips around North America, taking pictures of what we saw and recording what we did. Thinking our experiences might be useful to others planning similar road trips, we decided to preserve and share our travel diaries. This is part 3 of a trip we took in April of 2013. In this part, we travel west across the Chihuahuan Desert and explore a bit of the largest state park in Texas, Big Bend Ranch State Park. Riding our motorcycle along the Rio Grande, here the Texas-Mexican border, we cross spectacular hills and valleys along the base of the Bofaquillos Mountains. In the next part, that is part 4, we will also explore the biggest national park in Texas, which is Big Bend National Park. As with the other trip diaries on this channel, we have again created a list of trip highlights should you want to see other items that might be of more interest to you. So come on and travel with us. We will take you along with words and photographs. It's a pleasure to share them with you. At the end of part 2, we had finished our exploration of the Texas Hill Country in San Antonio, including the Alamo, and we're about to start for home. However, chatting over a coffee in a patio cafe with another motorcycle couple, they said, "You've come this far, you just can't go home without seeing Big Bend National Park." It was about 400 miles or 6 hours away, but being totally mobile and free of any schedules or deadlines, we just turned around and started heading west again. The roads west were great, and the scenery was varied. We stopped whenever there was something interesting to see. In our northern climate at home, this truck would have been a treasure. I'm no expert, but my guess is that it was a 1.5-ton Chevrolet flatbed dump truck from about 1941. We also stopped in the village of Leakey because it had permanent flood gauges installed on the road. While there is nothing funny about floods, flood gauges in a place called Leakey somehow seem funny. However, Leakey is actually pronounced Lakey, and in this hill country has apparently been called the Swiss Alps of Texas. The hills are up to 2,400 feet high with deep canyons cut by the Frio and Nueces rivers. Riding through the countryside, we suddenly came upon something we had never seen before, boots on fence posts. Our initial thought was, what a sense of humor! However, we later learned that these are sometimes a memorial to a family member, a hired hand, or even a special horse that has passed away. However, it can also apparently be used simply to tell visitors where the rancher is, by pointing the toe of the boot to his house or to the field he is working in. In this case, the rancher would have been pretty tough to find. This tradition has apparently been practiced for many generations throughout the Southwest, especially in Texas. Sue thought she'd pretend trying a couple on as a joke. Of course, she was very careful to put them back exactly as they were. We hoped there was no spell or bad luck that would follow us for touching them. We chose Highway 90 to continue traveling west through what became increasingly dry and desolate countryside. We would soon be getting into the Chihuahuan Desert. About 3.5 hours later, we were at the junction of Highway 90 and Highway 285 in Sanderson, Texas. We thought this sign must be a joke. That week, Highway 285 was to be closed all the way to Fort Stockton for the Big Bend Open Road Race. We later learned that it was and still is a real event. Billed as the most challenging open road race in the world, it is 118 miles long with some cars running well over 200 miles per hour. Check out the website given on the sign, bborr.com. This event looks like incredible fun. We stopped briefly in Sanderson, which is known as the cactus capital of Texas, and took a picture of a place called the Hacienda. I have been unable to figure out what kind of business it was or whether it is still operating, but our interest was actually focused on its really well-kept cactus garden. At this point, we had developed a real appreciation for cacti, especially when they were flowering. Not much further, and we reached Alpine, Texas, where 3 highways go south to Big Bend, all of them scenic. As we proceeded, the scenery certainly seemed to get more and more interesting. It was also getting extremely hot, and we were hoping there was a motel around with good air conditioning. Happily, we found one, but we did note that motels were not all that numerous in the desert. Even at 8:29, when the evening cool-down had started, the thermometer on our motorcycle still read 31 degrees centigrade. That's close to 88 degrees Fahrenheit. We weren't sorry to see the sun go down. The next day, we rode a short distance south on Highway 118 and turned right onto Highway FM 170. Our destination, a ghost town called Terlingua. Just outside Terlingua was a campground called Passing Wind. We weren't sure of the name's marketing value, but it stayed kind of easy to recall. Terlingua was once a mining town that produced an ore called cinnabar, from which mercury is extracted. Cinnabar is a red crystalline compound of mercury sulfide. People left Terlingua when the ore was depleted, and its current population is only 78 people. Remnants of Terlingua's heyday are everywhere, many well over a century old. The old Starlight Theater is still standing, but is now a restaurant and saloon. The Terlingua Cemetery is a registered National Historic Site, but is still used. Many of the graves are connected to the village's grim mining legacy. A little further west on Highway FM 170, we passed through Lajitas, a town of about 75 people, and then entered Big Bend Ranch State Park. Along the road, we passed a rest stop with benches and tables inside some teepees. They are said to be part of the Highway Beautification Act of 1965, which was a legacy of a former First Lady, Lady Bird Johnson. Many tourists have commented favorably on them, but the absence of restrooms was a little surprising. About 9.5 miles into the park, there was an abandoned movie set site called Contrabando. This movie set was used for 9 movies such as Lone Star and the television miniseries Dead Man's Walk. The movie set buildings really conveyed the flavor of frontier towns along the Mexican border, which were iconic in the Western movies of our youth. Unfortunately, a desert flood damaged all the buildings, and all but one were removed in 2015. Consequently, the buildings you see here are now gone, except for the first one built, which was La Casita. These pictures show La Casita as it was when we were there in 2013. Current online pictures of La Casita show it has changed somewhat too. The Rio Grande River and the cliffs of the Sierra Maderas del Carmen Mountains on the opposite side of the river in Mexico were a spectacular backdrop for the movies filmed here. We decided to use this great backdrop too. The mountains are part of the Sierra Madre Oriental mountain range. This whole region is part of the Chihuahuan Desert, which is the largest hot desert in North America. River Road FM 170 runs beside the Rio Grande River from Terlingua to Presidio. It is also called Camino del Rio. National Geographic's magazine has called it one of the top 10 scenic highways in North America. Texas tourist sites refer to it as a biker's delight. We found riding it on our motorcycle was truly a great adventure. Here we're getting ready to saddle up and leave Contrabando to see what else there is to see on this amazing highway. We soon see there are lots of others in the motorcycle fraternity making the same trip. One hill, called the Big Hill, apparently has a 15% grade, the steepest grade of any paved road in Texas. Sue got off at one point to take this picture. We should note that it got really hot, and our motorcycle thermometer registered 40 degrees centigrade. That's 104 degrees Fahrenheit. We have chosen to end part 3 here, just as we are about to begin the descent to perhaps the biggest hill in Big Bend Ranch State Park on our motorcycle. We'll conclude the section with a bit of video Sue took over my shoulder as we rode down. Strong wind turbulence and road vibration reduced the quality of this video, but it does show clearly why my attention to the road never wavered for a second. The remainder of what we saw and did on trip number 9 will be uploaded in the next part. It will include pictures or information on the following: Presidio, Texas, Big Bend National Park, Chisos Basin, Santa Elena Canyon, Boquillas Canyon, Hot Springs Trail, and Seminole Canyon State Historical Park. These locations all contain spectacular topography and amazing scenery. Unique to all is that they lie within a huge desert and beside an international boundary that is also the 3rd longest river in the United States.